Howdy folks, you're watching Deuce, and this is the first video of 2022. Now I'm going to do a Q&A. My wife went through the channel and found a couple of cool questions from the last month or so, I'm going to go ahead and answer those questions on this video. Also, just a quick update on the channel itself. I am planning to actually do some more uploads. Every November and December, I vow to make more videos because that's when I'm making the most money due to advertising. And unfortunately, my real big boy job just always needs me more and more every year. Now it's January, so we should be able to get some more content out there for you viewers. And now off to the Q&A here. Let's see, Mr. Norman asked on my AR15 black powder build, you could probably make that feed if you really wanted to. That is correct. Yes, I could possibly make that AR15 or any kind of semi-automatic firearm feed for a short while using black powder as propellant. So if you want to see that, if you want to see me go through the struggling of getting that to work, then leave a comment below and I will probably get that going eventually. On my how to swap out an AR15 barrel, Mitch asks, did he say to change the bolt or not? Well, that is a good question. Ideally, in a perfect world, you should always change out the bolt with the new barrel. If you got a new barrel, it's a good idea to throw in a new bolt as well. Do you really have to? No. If the bolt face is identical to what you're going to be using in anyway, then you should be able to swap that in if it's not worn out too much. There is a couple of different types of bolt faces. There's different sizes of bolts that go into the AR15. As long as they match up, the 350 Legend, the 223, 556, and the 300 Blackout can use interchangeable bolts. And some bolts do not interchange. Of course, the 762x39 bolt is not going to work in your 223, 556 application. The big bore applications, the, let's see, 458 SOCOM, 450 Bushmaster, 50 Beowulf, of course, those are not going to work inside a 223 application as well, or 300 Blackout, what have you. In my Deuce Won't Start video, Metalhead of Norway comments, owning a classic car is easier if it's properly maintained. And he states that because at one point in the video, I mentioned that owning a Deuce and a half is like owning a classic car in many aspects. And he's saying, well, they need to be properly maintained. That is correct. A classic car requires a lot more maintenance than a newer car. Just like a Deuce and a half requires a lot more maintenance on a more regular basis than a new truck, usually. For example, my Ford Fiesta, I've had it for 8 years. It has 85,000 miles. That's 140 something thousand kilometers for if you're actually in Norway. And I've never done a carburetor tune-up. I've never had to change out the spark plugs. They're good for over 100,000 miles. I've never had to change out the spark plug wires because there are none. It's a coil unplugged situation. And the points are non-existent. I've never had to cap or maintain, clean, replace the points or the distributor cap because, again, they don't exist. So I stand by my statement that owning a classic car or a Deuce and a half is a lot more maintenance than owning a modern vehicle. In my HiPoint long shot accessories video, Joey asked, what Picatinny rail do I use on the side? Well, let me grab that. It's right over here. I've got it partially taken apart because of a video I was doing earlier. But right here, what Joey's mentioning are the rails on the side right there. I think you can see that there. I'll do a close-up. Those are not from Longshot. Those are from HiPoint. HiPoint has a great store on the internet, on their website. So go to their website. You have to hunt around. Their website's kind of garbage. The HiPoint website is not easy to navigate, but go there, find their store, and they have these great side rails that snap right in. They screw right in with a couple of screws, and they've been good to go forever. Same thing with this handle there. This folding forward grip is also from HiPoint's own store and has been fantastic. In my video regarding the best magazines or the best magazine deal for 1911 pistols, a dude named 5 Shots asked if these magazines will work in a 32-year-old Colt Combat Commander 1911. Well, that's an interesting question. Let me grab a couple of magazines and we'll talk about it. I'm now back with some visual aids, and here are the two types of magazines I run in my 1911 pistol. The shiny one here is the Ed Brown magazine, and this one is a Chip McCormick magazine. They both run fantastically well in my ATI 1911. The Wilson magazine also runs really well, but I've never found a good deal on those, and since these are usually cheaper and they work just as well, I go with the cheaper but equally reliable option. The problem with 1911 magazines is that I cannot guarantee that any of these will work with your particular pistol. 1911s are not like Glocks. A Glock 17, you can use the official Glock magazine here. There's a Glock 17 magazine from Austria, and it is good to go. It will work and function perfectly just about every single time. And here is a Glock 17 magazine made by ETS. It's clear, which I think is kind of cool. It's either acrylic or some sort of clear polycarbonate. It may not last as long as the standard stock Glock magazine, but this thing has also functioned flawlessly for a couple of years now that I've had it. No problems whatsoever. I have personally witnessed this particular magazine, a Chip McCormick magazine, running great in my 1911. I put the same ammo in it, handed it to a friend of mine. It jammed every single round in his Remington. And it's a very good pistol. It's a much nicer pistol than what I have, but unfortunately it did not like these magazines. The only advice about buying 1911 magazines is buy from a reputable source and a reputable name. Ed Brown, Chip McCormick, Wilson. Wilson makes great mags as well. Those three are primarily the closest thing to a universal Glock style compatibility as you're going to find, but it's never guaranteed. Once you do find a magazine that runs in your pistol, buy a bunch of them and be done with it. That's the only advice I can give you for 1911s. On my video about 3D printing Glock magazines, Jesse asks, what filament do I use? Well, let me grab some and I'll show you. I use eSun's PLA Plus or PLA Pro. Those are the two things that I like to use. They're not the best out there, but they do the job. They do it easily and cleanly, and it's cheap. This is some of the cheaper PLA out there, and it's great. It is not the most robust filament out there. There are some nylons and some PGE or whatever that's called, but there's a steep learning curve to get those things to print right, and you have to constantly monitor that, and you need to basically step up your level, step up your game in 3D printing to utilize those effectively. The eSun PLA Plus and PLA Pro options, that's a set it and forget. That's Ron Popeil. You set it, you forget it. I like to set up my printer, get it running, go to bed, wake up, and there's a finished part. That's how I want to run my 3D printers, and eSun lets me do that for fairly cheap. And it's available on Amazon. I'll leave some links below if you want to go ahead and link that and support the channel with, of course, no cost to you. On one of my Heritage Revolver videos, Lil Nasty says he's almost positive that his Heritage Rough Rider revolvers have plastic triggers. I don't think so. I think they're steel. Let me grab a couple of them and we'll test them out. This is my very first Rough Rider revolver. It's about 10 years old, and I have a magnet here so we can test it. You can see it does attach to the barrel, so we know the barrel is steel. The cylinder is also steel, as you can see. The frame, not so much. You know, the frame is an aluminum alloy of some sort, but the trigger is steel. See, it doesn't attach to the frame, so the trigger guard is aluminum. The trigger itself is steel. That's what it's attaching to. They may have changed that during the preceding years, so I bought this. This is about a year and a half old. This is the Rancher carbine. Nope, that is also steel trigger. Of course, you cannot get the magnet to attach to the aluminum frame, but the trigger is steel here. And my most recent purchase is the Barkeep, and let me just test that out. Yes, so all the triggers, as far as I can tell, are all steel because they all attract a magnet. On the normal revolvers, the only thing that's plastic that I can find is the ejection rod handle right there. If I can get that in the light, right there. On my AR15 pistol brace rules video, a person named None, that's the interesting username, None asks, any rules with just the pistol buffer tube and foam pad? So basically the tube and no brace on it. There are a few rules. Let me grab one, I'll show you. And here we have an AR15 pistol. And there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. That is a pistol. It can be shot one-handed, two-handed, like a Glock or something like that. If you really wanted to, I guess you could try to put it against your shoulder, but that would be so hard to do. That is not a That is not a convenient pistol to fire from the shoulder. In this configuration, the same rules apply as with this Glock. And that is basically no forward grip, and the whole thing needs to be less than 26 inches in length. So as long as you're under 26 inches and you don't have a forward grip here, then you are good to go. That makes for a really good stand. Another useful invention by eSun, the AR15 pistol stand. Beautiful. Okay, on my cheap 22 pistols video by Steely Danny. Hey Deuce, nice video. I like the holster. Could you tell me where you bought it, please? Well, I'm assuming you're talking about the holster at the end of the video where I have my Rough Rider revolver in it. I bought that off Etsy. I can't remember who I bought it from, but I got a couple of them here. I think you're talking about this one right here. I also have a cross draw holster as well that also fits the Heritage revolvers. I just went to Etsy's website and verified these are still available, and they are, and they're all reasonably priced too. I think I paid more back in the day, so they are available and reasonably priced. So just go to Etsy's website and do a search for Rough Rider revolver holster or whatever holster you're talking about. It could be anything. There's a ton of makers there. They make them in the United States with mostly USA made materials. It's just dudes in their garage building stuff, and they make some nice stuff. On my Deuce and a half oil change video, Bradley Murphy asks, was there an oil pressure increase after using the Wix filters? I'm wondering because there isn't as many holes as the previous filter. There was a little bit of an increase in the oil pressure, but I think that had more to do with the viscosity of the oil. Old oil versus new oil. Old oil tends to break down, especially in a big diesel like the Deuce and a half, and I see the same thing in my 7.3 liter engine as well. The oil change will increase pressures just because it's new oil versus old oil. After a few miles in that oil change, the oil pressure settled back down to where it was before, so it's not a big deal. The number of holes in the filter do not influence the oil pressure or the oil capacity or flow rate or anything of that nature. All the model numbers are pretty much identical across the different manufacturers. The Wix filter, I think Wix actually makes their own filters, so I'm not sure if they do or not for that particular model, but it's been fine. I will probably change out with new filters again from Wix because they've been perfectly acceptable so far. The Deuce and a half is due for a new oil change, so I might do that as a live stream. I don't know if you guys would show up for that. Let me know in the comments below if you'd like to see a live stream of me changing oil in my diesels or whatnot. If you've been with the channel long enough, you'll know that I used to have a weekly live stream where I did something with the firearms or reloading ammunition, something of that nature. Unfortunately, that is a big no-no in the YouTube universe now, so we can't do that, but we can do something about cars. So let me know in the comments below if it is something that you would show up to, and if so, what time of day and what day in the week would you like to see that? I told you I get as many of these as possible, and hopefully I covered a lot of these on this video. If you have any other comments, questions, or show ideas, leave that in the comment box of the video. I'll try to get as many as possible. And as always, you guys have a great day and have a fantastic 2022. See ya.